Hello, everyone, and welcome to OurVentura TV. I'm Sandra Siepak. On today's show, we're welcoming Christopher Correa. He is an attorney with a focus on employment law here with Schneiders and Associates, LLP in Oxnard, serving all of Ventura County. Thank you so much, Chris, for joining us.
Thank you, Sandra, for having me on.
Great. We're going to talk a little bit today about COVID-19 in the workplace and how both employees and employers are handling many of the situations that they're coming up with, dealing with working and also making people safe and comfortable in their jobs today. So let's start out with that. It's a very challenging time. How can employers and employees work together in the workplace to make it safe and certainly a situation where everybody is comfortable?
Thank you, Sandra. Yes, it's certainly a hot topic right now, and things are ever changing, but the things that people are focused on now is getting back to work. And the biggest concern for most folks is safety, for obvious reasons, as we've seen what's been going on since March or probably before then. And the things that employers and employees both can do is completely exchange the information and follow the rules and regulations that are provided on a federal, state, and county level, and implement those policies if you're the employer at the workplace, follow them as an employee in the workplace. And if you see people that are not following the procedures and protocols in place to help combat or flatten the curve for COVID-19, you have to have a duty both as the employer and the employee to report that violation or perceived violation to the proper person, a supervisor or HR person, things of that nature. But that's kind of the nuts and bolts of what we're doing and what the legislation and the law is trying to do. Now, if I want to break that down a little bit, big concern for employees is how safe will they be when they go back? Some of the issues that have been arising are the level of concern that certain people give this pandemic. Some are willing to go back, can't wait to get back. Others are more conservative and concerned about getting back to work too quickly. And there are protections in place that will help you as the employee get back into work and also help the employers not force, but encourage and provide the information and the regulations and the requirements that entitle them to say, hey, Mr. Employee or Miss Employee, you need to return to work because we're at a tier or a safety spot in our county that permits for that or allows for that.
As an advocate for the viewer, I'd like to just say that what if there is an employee that is not comfortable returning to work? That there may be health risks involved, or they are just not comfortable going back into the workplace with a lot of people around them. What are your options? Do you have any legal options? Do you have the opportunity to work at home if you choose to? And can you keep your job?
Good questions, and that's again a theme that's been coming up a lot lately. Some people prefer to work remotely. Those of us attorneys can do their job on a Zoom format or platform and can work remotely. We're strongly encouraging people to work remotely if that's possible. There's certain jobs, trades, construction, things of that nature that simply can't be done remotely. Manufacturing, production, things of that nature, where you need people in there to do these services or duties for their employer. Now, simply not wanting to go back without a medical or valid basis is not going to be enough to reach the threshold for you to say, hold my job, or I want to use my vacation, or whatever is going on in that particular situation. On the other hand, if you have a legitimate concern that falls underneath the COVID rules and regulations and protocols, daycare issues, childcare issues, sick family members, sick parents, you have leaves available to you for that reason. But if you just wake up on Monday and say, oh, I'm just not comfortable with the situation of the pandemic, I don't feel like coming in, the employer, to his or her protection can also say, okay, well, I'm sorry, Mr. Smith, but we're going to have to let you go at this time. The essential functions of your job require you to be in the place on a daily basis, and you can't work remotely because you make widgets for a living. And at that point, if Mr. Smith, our hypothetical employee, still has no valid basis that falls under those COVID or Families First Coronavirus Act provisions, Mr. Smith is not going to be employed for very much longer with the company.
Yeah, because as an employee, you want to make sure that your rights are protected, but also employers want to make sure that they are doing everything correctly for many, many people out there who are in their employment as well. Give us an idea of how employers are reacting now to all the changes they have to make.
Well, they're scrambling, and that's because it's changing very often. Not only the information that's disclosed on a daily basis, but also the different tiers that we enter into as the numbers start to level out or flatten out to the point where we can increase opening businesses or letting people see or entertain indoors. So what the employers can do and what the legislation has done and what the applicable laws have done is provide extra layers of protection for employees in the workplace. The obvious ones that most people can think of are the social distancing, the wearing of masks, the requirement to have hand sanitizer, wet wipes, clean up after areas. Those are sort of the obvious ones that people can think of or brainstorm or discuss. But in addition to that, the provisions of existing law have been expanded to encompass potential problems that may arise in the workplace as a result of COVID-19 exposure. Workers' comp protections have been extended. There's additional paid leave available for people that are affected by the COVID-19 outbreak. There's an additional levels of workplace safety that have to be followed and have to be implemented by the employer in order to keep the employees safe. They have to provide notice to the employees if there is an outbreak. So in other words, you're not kept in the dark or in the cubicle or in the manufacturing line without knowing that the person who worked two spots down from you was either exposed or in fact positive for it. There's requirements that the employers report their data to the public health agency to make sure that the county can keep an eye on the employer and his or her business and how it's performing. The additional things, there's additional leaves of absence I touched on a moment ago, family members or yourself or children or childcare. Without getting too technical, there's the CIFRA, the CFRA, and the FMLA. You actually have, as an employee, up to 24 weeks available of leave time, depending upon your employer and number of employees, but some certain factors. But now you can get up to 24 weeks of leave. One of the things they did for the CFRA is they reduced the number of employees from 50 to 5. So now those people that work at small businesses are afforded the same protections as the bigger businesses. Additionally, they expanded the definition of family to now include grandkids, grandparents, and siblings, which allows you to have additional reasons or basis for asking or requesting for leave under these provisions.
So if somebody should test positive for COVID-19 in your workplace, what are your options? What can you do now?
Well, again, at that point, there's a notice requirement that lets the other employees know, and the employer has to take the appropriate actions depending upon those circumstances. And again, as an attorney, I tell you to err on the side of caution and notify them. And if the business has to be shut down for up to 72 hours for proper sanitation and cleaning because you're unaware of how that outbreak occurred, then maybe that's going to err on the side of caution and save you some liability or some issues down the line, even though you have to halt production for 2-3 days if you can't pull it off over a weekend. One of the other things that are afforded or allowed to, one of the other things that can be done in the workplace is you have to be able to notify these employees that someone is potentially exposed, and then err on the side of caution and use that leave that's available for the employees to go home and either get a test or self-quarantine or seek some sort of opinion from a healthcare provider related to COVID-19. You can take certain measures as they enter work as far as temperatures or looking for objective signs or symptoms, including fever and the other symptoms and signs that have been listed. You're allowed to do those proper measures because you want to make sure, but specific to actually someone being positive, within reason, if the employer can pinpoint where that exposure and contraction came from, that's ideal. Did it happen in the workplace? That's a big difference than if it happened over the weekend when someone was at a gathering with, say, more than the allotted amount of people or families, and then was it isolated there and caught ahead of time? So, for example, I'm sorry.
Employers are being hit really hard. This is a very tough thing, especially if you're a small business, trying to keep all this going together. Let's talk about employers. How are they handling all the legalities and also trying to keep everybody working?
Well, that's a tough answer because of the different areas of businesses. One of the hot ones now is our salons are allowed to reopen. I can go get cleaned up now at a certain limited capacity. Salons are being allowed to be reopened for customers to come in. However, estheticians are having problems because you can't do a facial if you have to be required to wear a mask in the place. So, you know, again, bars are a hot topic too. You got people in close quarters, whether they're in line for beverages or for food. You have the servers coming in and out, and then you have the people that arguably are not wearing the mask correctly or not wearing the mask when they should. So there's a lot of things that go on, but the employers, there's also rules for food employees and non-food employees. So each employer has to check what his or her business is and what regulations or what regulations or protocol they must implement and apply and follow for their particular area. But most of it, again, comes down to social distancing, 25% capacity, limiting the amount of people in one area, spreading out even lines to the bathrooms or lines to get in, lines to order food, things of that nature. Very good.
You know, dealing with all these measures can be very ever-changing, especially as we move into the winter season. Things may even get, you know, a little bit more changing than ever. So how do we really keep up with all the laws and regulations? Where can you go to find more information and get that, you know, new information that's out there being posted daily?
There are a number of resources that we recommend, or I recommend that you can go visit, including the Department of Labor website. The DOL has a very good FAQ, frequently asked questions page, which is geared and addressed and written for both employers and employees. So that's a good one to go look at and reference. And it will also give you additional links into your area of business or production or whatever type of business you're running. The Department of Labor Standards Enforcement, the DLSC, also has additional information related to wage and hour, meal and rest breaks, overtime, working remotely, things of that nature. A good website for us local people here in Ventura County is VenturaCountyRecovers.org, which keeps you updated daily, hourly, more than once a day, on where we are and what tier we're on. And those are some of the resources that are available. And I guess, you know, you can also go out there and search, like I said earlier, OSHA's another website you can look at, depending upon the nature of your business. If you're a PPE, a personal protective equipment business, then you need to have PPE on hand and in stock and ready for all employees, no matter what. You're going to see some changes going forward. And the last thing I'd say for employers is you need to be prepared to have everything related to policies and regulations and requirements at the workplace up to date by 2021, or you're going to look at some, not serious, but you're going to look at potential liability, the seriousness of what is to be determined, because this is so new and so uncharted.
Very good. Well, we want everybody to just stay safe out there. And we thank you very much, Chris Correa, attorney who is focusing on employment law here in Ventura County. We thank you very much for sharing some of this information with us, and we want everybody to take care.
Absolutely. Thank you very much for having me on, Sandra, and put those face masks on when you get back to work, okay?
Sounds great. Thank you, Chris.
All right, thank you.